In the ancient world, long before the bustling cities and constant connectivity of modern life, there existed a profound understanding of the human spirit that we are only beginning to rediscover today. The treatment of what we now call anxiety, particularly in women, was approached with a wisdom that combined observation, intuition, and a deep respect for the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul. Picture yourself settling into this journey through time, where the soft glow of oil lamps illuminated scrolls of ancient knowledge, and the gentle crackling of fires provided warmth in stone chambers where healers worked their quiet magic. The air carries the faint scent of burning herbs, lavender, chamomile, and frankincense, aromatic medicines that have soothed troubled minds for thousands of years. In ancient Egypt, along the banks of the life-giving Nile, physicians understood that the heart was not merely a physical organ, but the seat of emotion and consciousness. They observed how the flooding of the great river followed natural cycles, and they applied this same cyclical understanding to the emotional lives of women. Egyptian healers recognized that women's emotional states ebbed and flowed like the sacred waters, and they developed treatments that honored these natural rhythms rather than fighting against them. The papyrus scrolls of ancient Egyptian medicine, carefully preserved in dry desert air, speak of remedies that addressed not just symptoms, but the whole person. Women experiencing what we might now call anxiety were encouraged to spend time in temple gardens, where the sound of flowing water and the sight of lotus blossoms growing from muddy waters served as living metaphors for transformation and renewal. The Egyptians understood that healing happened not just through substances, but through connection with nature's cycles and the divine feminine energy that governed them. Moving northward to ancient Greece, we find ourselves in a civilization that laid the foundations for Western medicine, yet approached healing with a holistic understanding that modern science is only now beginning to appreciate. Greek physicians like Hippocrates observed that anxiety in women often coincided with certain life transitions, the onset of womanhood, childbirth, and the changing seasons of life. They developed a system of treatment that addressed these transitions as natural and sacred, rather than as disorders to be cured. In the healing temples of Asclepius, scattered throughout the Greek islands and mainland, women would come seeking relief from the racing thoughts and restless nights that we recognize today as anxiety. These weren't sterile medical facilities, but sacred spaces where healing happened through dreams, ritual, and community support. The temples were designed with flowing water features, gardens filled with medicinal plants, and spaces for contemplation that naturally calmed the mind. Greek healers understood that anxiety often arose from a disconnection, from nature, from community, from one's own inner wisdom. Their treatments focused on restoration of these connections. Women would spend days in the temple complex, participating in gentle rituals that honored their experiences and emotions rather than dismissing them. They would bathe in warm springs infused with calming herbs, participate in guided meditations under star-filled skies, and receive massages with oils of rose and sandalwood that penetrated not just the skin, but seemed to reach into the very core of their being. The Greek understanding of anxiety was remarkably sophisticated. They recognized it not as a character flaw or a sign of weakness, but as a signal that something in a woman's life needed attention. Perhaps she was overwhelmed by responsibilities, isolated from supportive relationships, or disconnected from activities that brought her joy and meaning. The healing process involved not just treating symptoms, but helping women identify and address these underlying causes. In Rome, the approach to female anxiety evolved to include the understanding that women's emotional well-being was intricately connected to their roles in family and society. Roman physicians observed that women who had outlets for their intelligence and creativity experienced less anxiety than those who felt confined or undervalued. This led to treatments that encouraged women to pursue activities that engaged their minds and spirits, whether that was participation in religious ceremonies, artistic pursuits, or the management of household affairs that allowed them to exercise their natural abilities. Roman healing baths, or thermae, became centers not just for physical cleansing, but for emotional and spiritual renewal. These elaborate complexes included gardens, libraries, and spaces for social interaction that recognized the importance of community in maintaining mental well-being. Women would spend hours in these spaces, moving from warm pools infused with mineral salts to cooler chambers, where they might read poetry or engage in gentle conversation with other women facing similar challenges. The Romans also developed what might be considered the first systematic approach to what we now call lifestyle medicine for anxiety. They understood that regular sleep, moderate exercise, proper nutrition, and meaningful social connections were fundamental to emotional well-being. Roman physicians would prescribe specific daily routines that included morning walks in gardens, midday rest periods, and evening activities that prepared the mind for restful sleep. Throughout these ancient civilizations, there was a common understanding that true healing happened not in isolation, but in connection. Connection to nature, to community, to the sacred, and to one's own inner wisdom. This understanding shaped every aspect of how anxiety was approached and treated, creating a foundation of wisdom that continues to offer insights for our modern understanding of mental and emotional well-being. As you continue this journey through time, imagine yourself approaching one of these ancient healing sanctuaries, just as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of rose and gold. The day's heat is beginning to fade, replaced by the gentle coolness of evening air that carries the scent of blooming jasmine and the sound of distant temple bells ringing their evening prayers. Your feet follow a worn stone path that has been walked by countless women before you, each seeking the same peace and restoration that you now seek. The stones beneath your feet are smooth from years of use, warmed by the day's sun, but now cooling to a comfortable temperature that seems to draw away the tension you've been carrying. With each step, you can feel the concerns and worries of modern life beginning to fade, as if they were simply clothes being gently removed and left behind. The pathway is lined with cypress trees that stand like silent guardians, their dark green branches reaching toward the deepening sky. Between them, you catch glimpses of olive groves where the silvery leaves shimmer in the evening breeze, creating patterns of light and shadow that dance across your vision in a hypnotic, soothing rhythm. The air here feels different, cleaner, somehow, and charged with an energy that speaks of healing and renewal. As you walk, you notice other women on the path, some ahead of you, some behind, all moving with the same quiet purpose. There's a sense of sisterhood here, an unspoken understanding that you are all part of something larger than your individual struggles. Some women carry small bundles of herbs, others hold scrolls or small clay vessels filled with offerings for the healing goddesses. The diversity is beautiful. Women of different ages from different places, united by their shared humanity and their desire for peace. The sound of flowing water grows stronger as you approach the sanctuary, and you realize that the entire complex has been built around a natural spring that bubbles up from deep within the earth. The ancient builders understood that water is life, and that the sound of flowing water has an almost magical ability to calm the mind and soothe the spirit. The spring feeds into a series of channels and pools that wing throughout the sanctuary, creating a constant, gentle music that seems to wash away stress and tension. The main building of the sanctuary comes into view as you round a bend in the path, and you pause to take in its beauty. Built of warm, honey-colored stone that seems to glow in the evening light, the structure appears to have grown from the earth itself rather than being imposed upon it. The architecture is simple but elegant, with columns that rise like trees, and open spaces that invite the outside in. Vines heavy with grapes climb the walls, And window openings are designed to frame views of gardens and distant hills rather than to shut out the natural world. At the entrance, you're greeted by one of the sanctuary keepers, an older woman whose eyes hold the wisdom of years spent in service to healing. Her greeting is warm but quiet, acknowledging your journey without requiring you to speak of what brought you here. She understands that many who come to this place carry burdens that are difficult to put into words, and that healing often begins with simply being welcomed and accepted exactly as you are. She leads you through the entrance hall, where the walls are decorated with beautiful frescoes depicting scenes of healing and renewal. The images are not of dramatic medical procedures, but of gentle activities, women bathing in healing springs, gathering herbs in moonlit gardens, sitting in circles sharing stories and wisdom. These images speak to a different understanding of healing, one that recognizes that true wellness comes not from fighting against our challenges, but from finding ways to live in harmony with them. The central courtyard of the sanctuary opens before you like a secret garden, enclosed by colonnades that provide shade during the day while allowing the evening breeze to flow freely through the space. The courtyard is filled with medicinal plants, chamomile with its tiny white flowers, lavender bushes that release their calming scent at the slightest touch, and beds of mint and lemon balm that seem to purify the air itself. In the center of the courtyard, a fountain bubbles gently, its water catching the last rays of sunlight and sending dancing reflections across the surrounding walls. Small groups of women sit quietly in various parts of the courtyard, some alone in contemplation, others in gentle conversation. The atmosphere is one of peaceful sanctuary, where time moves more slowly and the pressures of everyday life seem to dissolve. You notice that no one seems hurried or anxious here. Instead, there's a quality of mindful presence that seems to pervade the entire space. As you're shown to your quarters, a simple but comfortable room that overlooks a herb garden, you notice how every detail has been designed to promote tranquility. The bed is made up with soft linens that smell faintly of lavender, and a small oil lamp provides gentle, flickering light that's easy on the eyes and soothing to the mind. A clay pitcher filled with fresh spring water sits on a simple wooden table, along with a cup and a small arrangement of flowers that someone has placed there as a welcome gift. The window of your room opens onto a view of the sanctuary's meditation garden, where paths wend between beds of healing plants and small alcoves provide quiet spaces for reflection. Even in the gathering darkness, you can make out the shapes of other women walking these paths, moving slowly and deliberately as they prepare for the evening's rest. There's something deeply comforting about this sight, a reminder that you are not alone in your journey toward healing and peace. As you settle into this new environment, you can feel your body beginning to relax in ways it hasn't for a long time. The constant tension in your shoulders starts to ease, your breathing becomes deeper and more regular, and your mind begins to quiet its endless chatter. This is a place where healing happens not through force or struggle, but through gentle acceptance and the wisdom of practices that have soothed troubled hearts for thousands of years. The evening air carries the sound of soft chanting from the temple nearby, voices raised not in supplication or desperation, but in gentle celebration of the divine feminine energy that the ancients understood as the source of all healing. As you listen, you can feel yourself becoming part of something much larger than your individual concerns, connected to generations of women who have found peace and strength in places like this. The soft glow of oil lamps begins to illuminate the sanctuary as darkness settles over the ancient landscape, creating pools of warm light that seem to float in the gentle evening air. From your window, you can see other women emerging from their quarters, moving with the unhurried pace that characterizes everything about this sacred place. The sound of a small bell, clear and sweet, calls everyone to gather in the main healing chamber for the evening's introduction to the ancient practices that have brought comfort to countless generations of women. You make your way through corridors, lit by clay lamps set in wall niches, their flames dancing quietly and casting moving shadows that seem alive with gentle energy. The floors are made of smooth stones that feel cool and soothing beneath your feet, and the walls are decorated with images of healing goddesses and symbols of renewal that speak to something deep within your soul, even if your mind doesn't fully understand their meaning. The main healing chamber is a circular room with a domed ceiling that opens to the night sky, allowing the light of stars to mingle with the warm glow of the oil lamps arranged around the room's perimeter. The floor is covered with soft rugs, woven in patterns that seem to draw the eye inward toward the center, where a small fountain bubbles quietly, its water catching and reflecting the lamplight in ever-changing patterns that are hypnotic and deeply relaxing. About 20 women have gathered for this evening session, arranging themselves comfortably on cushions placed in a loose circle around the fountain. The diversity of the group is striking. Young women barely past girlhood, mothers in the prime of life, and older women whose faces show the wisdom that comes from years of experience. All are united by their shared search for peace and understanding, and by their willingness to trust in the ancient wisdom that has drawn them to this place. The session begins not with words, but with silence, a deep, comfortable quiet that allows everyone to settle fully into the present moment. The only sounds are the gentle bubbling of the fountain, the soft whisper of evening breeze through the open ceiling, and the barely audible sound of breathing as 20 women allow themselves to simply be present in this sacred space. When the healer finally speaks, her voice is like honey, warm, golden, and soothing to the spirit. She explains that in ancient times, healing began not with diagnosis or treatment, but with recognition that every woman who sought help was already whole and perfect, and that healing was simply a process of removing the obstacles that prevented her from experiencing this wholeness. She speaks of how the ancient healers understood anxiety not as a disease to be cured, but as a messenger carrying important information about a woman's life and needs. Perhaps anxiety arose when a woman was disconnected from her natural rhythms, trying to live according to expectations that didn't honor her true nature. Perhaps it came when she was isolated from supportive community, or when she had forgotten her own strength and wisdom. The healer's voice weaves through the evening air like a gentle spell, explaining how the ancients worked with the elements, earth, water, fire, and air, to restore balance and harmony. Earth provided grounding and stability through connection with plants and stones. Water offered cleansing and renewal through baths, springs, and the simple act of drinking pure, fresh water with mindful attention. Fire brought transformation and purification through the warmth of the sun, the comfort of hearth flames, and the light of oil lamps that pushed back the darkness of fear and worry. Air, the healer explains, was perhaps the most important element in treating anxiety, because breath was understood as the bridge between body and spirit. The ancients had developed breathing practices that could calm a racing mind, soothe a pounding heart, and restore the natural rhythm of peace that was every woman's birthright. These practices were not complicated or difficult, but required only the willingness to pay attention to something that happened naturally thousands of times each day. As the healer speaks, she begins to guide the group through one of these ancient breathing practices. Her instructions are simple and gentle. Breathe in slowly through the nose, imagining that you are drawing in not just air, but the essence of peace itself. Hold the breath for a moment, allowing this peace to permeate every cell of your body. Then breathe out slowly through the mouth, releasing not just air, but any tension, worry, or fear that you have been carrying. The practice continues in comfortable silence, with only the healer's voice offering occasional gentle guidance. Breathe in peace, hold gently. Breathe out tension. With each cycle, you can feel your body settling deeper into relaxation, your mind becoming clearer and more focused, your spirit opening to receive the healing that this ancient place offers. As the breathing practice draws to a close, the healer introduces another element of ancient healing, The use of sound and vibration to calm the mind and harmonize the body's energy. She produces a small bronze bowl and a wooden striker, and explains that the ancient healers understood that certain sounds could actually change the state of consciousness, moving a person from anxiety and agitation to peace and tranquility. When she strikes the bowl, a pure, clear tone fills the chamber, seeming to penetrate not just the ears, but the entire body. The sound seems to wash away mental chatter and emotional turbulence, leaving behind a crystalline clarity that feels both peaceful and energizing. The tone gradually fades, but its effects seem to linger, as if the very air in the chamber has been purified and charged with healing energy. The healer explains that this is just one of many sound healing techniques used in ancient times. Women would gather to chant together, their voices blending in harmonies that seemed to open doorways to divine consciousness. They would listen to the natural sounds around them, flowing water, rustling leaves, birdsong, with the understanding that these sounds carried messages of healing and renewal from the natural world. As the evening session draws toward its close, the healer speaks about the importance of ritual and ceremony in ancient healing practices. These were not empty traditions, but powerful tools for marking transitions, creating sacred space, and connecting with sources of strength and wisdom larger than individual concerns. She explains that over the coming days, each woman will have the opportunity to participate in various rituals designed to address her specific needs and concerns. But for tonight, she says, the ritual is simple, the ritual of rest. The ancients understood that healing happened not during busy, active times, but during periods of deep rest when the body could repair itself and the mind could process and integrate experiences. They viewed sleep not as a passive state, but as an active form of healing that required the same attention and intention as any other therapeutic practice. The session ends with a blessing, not a religious blessing that requires specific beliefs, but a simple acknowledgement of each woman's courage in seeking healing and her worthiness to receive it. The healer's words float through the evening, air like flower petals, carrying wishes for peaceful sleep, healing dreams, and the deep rest that prepares both body and spirit for renewal. As you make your way back to your quarters through corridors now lit only by the soft glow of oil lamps, you can feel the effects of the evening's practices settling into your body and mind. Your breathing is deeper and more regular, your muscles are relaxed, and your mind has found a quietness that feels both familiar and miraculous. This is what the ancients knew, that healing doesn't require complicated procedures or expensive treatments, but simply the willingness to return to the natural state of peace that is every human being's birthright. The second day in the sanctuary dawns with the soft light of sunrise filtering through your window, bringing with it the gentle sounds of the awakening world, birds beginning their morning songs, the distant sound of temple bells, and the ever-present murmur of flowing water that seems to provide a constant, soothing backdrop to life in this sacred place. You rise feeling more rested than you have in months, your body naturally responding to the rhythm of natural light and the deep peace that permeated your dreams throughout the night. After a simple breakfast of fresh bread, honey, and herbal tea served in the sanctuary's dining garden, you're invited to join a special session dedicated to the healing wisdom of ancient Egypt. The setting for this experience is a recreation of an Egyptian healing temple, complete with hieroglyphic inscriptions that tell stories of healing and renewal, and walls painted in the soft blues and golds that the Egyptians associated with divine healing energy. The Egyptian healer who guides today's session is a woman whose presence seems to carry the timeless wisdom of the Nile Valley. She explains that Egyptian medicine was based on a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, the connection between the microcosm of the human body and the macrocosm of the universe, between the cycles of the Nile and the cycles of human life, between the movement of celestial bodies and the rhythms of health and disease. For the ancient Egyptians, she explains, Anxiety was understood as a disruption in the natural flow of life energy, what they called the ka, the vital force that animated all living things. When this energy became blocked or imbalanced, it manifested as what we now recognize as anxiety symptoms: restlessness, racing thoughts, difficulty sleeping, and a sense of disconnection from one's own inner wisdom. Egyptian healing practices. For anxiety centered around restoring the natural flow of this life energy through connection with the elemental forces of nature. The session begins with a practice called breathing with the Nile, based on the ancient understanding that the rhythm of breath should mirror the natural ebb and flow of the great river that gave life to Egyptian civilization. You're guided to lie comfortably on soft cushions, while imagining yourself floating gently on the peaceful waters of the Nile. The visualization is incredibly vivid and soothing. You can almost feel the warm water supporting your body, the gentle current carrying away all tension and worry, and the bright Egyptian sun warming your skin as papyrus plants wave gently in the breeze along the riverbank. As you breathe, you're encouraged to imagine that each inhalation draws in the life-giving energy of the river, while each exhalation releases any stagnant or blocked energy that has been causing anxiety or distress. The practice continues for what feels like timeless minutes, during which you experience a profound sense of being held and supported by forces much larger and more reliable than your individual concerns. The Egyptian healer then introduces the practice of temple walking. Based on the ancient custom of walking meditation in temple courtyards designed specifically to promote healing and spiritual renewal. The space has been arranged with a labyrinth pattern marked in colored sand, and you're invited to walk this pattern slowly and mindfully, allowing your feet to follow the ancient path while your mind settles into increasingly deeper states of peace. As you walk, the healer shares stories of how Egyptian women would come to healing temples during times of anxiety and distress, often traveling for days along the Nile to reach these centers of wisdom and renewal. These pilgrimages were themselves part of the healing process, providing time for reflection and gradual transition from the concerns of everyday life to the sacred space of healing. The labyrinth walking practice is profoundly calming, creating a meditative state where thought becomes less important than sensation, and sensation becomes less important than the simple experience of being present in each moment. Your footsteps create a gentle rhythm that seems to synchronize with your heartbeat, and you begin to understand why the ancients considered walking meditation to be one of the most powerful tools for calming anxiety and restoring inner peace. Following the walking meditation, you're introduced to Egyptian aromatherapy practices that use the healing properties of plants to address emotional and spiritual imbalances. The healer explains that the Egyptians were master perfumers and understood that scent had the power to instantly change emotional states and connect people with memories of peace and safety. A series of small clay vessels containing different aromatic oils are passed around the group. Each oil represents a different aspect of healing: frankincense for spiritual connection and elevation of consciousness, myrrh for grounding and protection, rose for heart healing and emotional balance, and lotus for purity and renewal. As you inhale each scent, you're guided to notice how it affects your mental and emotional state, observing how different aromas can instantly calm anxiety, lift depression, or restore a sense of hope and possibility. The Egyptian session includes instruction in the ancient practice of hieroglyphic meditation, where specific Egyptian symbols are used as focal points for contemplation and healing. You're given a piece of papyrus with a simple hieroglyph representing peace and asked to spend time gazing at the symbol while allowing its meaning to penetrate deeper than intellectual understanding into the realm of direct experience. The practice is surprisingly powerful. As you gaze at the ancient symbol, created by artists who lived thousands of years ago but who shared your basic human desire for peace and healing, you feel a profound connection across time and space. The symbol seems to speak directly to something in your subconscious mind, bypassing the analytical thought processes that often contribute to anxiety and connecting you directly with the experience of peace itself. The healer explains that the Egyptians understood symbols to be more than just representations of ideas. They were considered to be containers for actual spiritual energy that could be transmitted across time and space. By meditating on symbols that had been charged with peaceful intention by thousands of previous practitioners, you were participating in a healing practice that connected you with an unbroken chain of women seeking the same peace and restoration that you now seek. As the afternoon progresses, you're introduced to Egyptian massage techniques that use warm oils infused with healing herbs to release physical tension and restore the natural flow of life energy through the body. The massage is unlike anything you've experienced in modern times, not aggressive or painful, but incredibly gentle and nurturing, as if you were being held and cared for by the most loving mother imaginable. The oils used in the massage have been infused with chamomile, lavender, and sandalwood, creating a fragrance that seems to penetrate not just your skin but your very soul. As skilled hands work to release the tension you've been carrying in your muscles, you can feel anxiety literally melting away, replaced by a profound sense of being loved and cared for. The Egyptian healer explains that in ancient times, touch was understood to be one of the most powerful healing modalities available. Through loving, intentional touch, healers could transmit not just physical comfort, but actual healing energy that helped to restore balance and harmony to all aspects of a person's being. As the day's Egyptian healing session draws to a close, you participate in a simple but powerful ritual of gratitude that acknowledges the healing you've received and sets intention for continued healing throughout the night. The ritual involves writing a word or phrase representing what you're grateful for on a small piece of papyrus, then placing it in a shallow bowl where it will be burned in a small ceremony after everyone has retired for the evening. The act of writing your gratitude feels surprisingly significant, as if you're participating in an ancient practice that connects you with countless other women who have performed similar rituals in temples along the Nile over thousands of years. There's something deeply healing about acknowledging not just what you need, but what you've already received, and about participating in a ceremony that honors the ongoing process of healing and renewal. As evening falls and you prepare to return to your quarters, you carry with you not just the memory of the day's practices, but a tangible sense of having been changed by them. Your body feels more relaxed and vital, your mind is clearer and more peaceful, and your spirit feels connected to sources of strength and wisdom that you didn't even know existed. This is the gift of ancient Egyptian healing wisdom, not just temporary relief from symptoms, but actual transformation that prepares you for deeper healing yet to come. The third day awakens with a gentle mist rising from the sanctuary springs, creating an ethereal atmosphere that seems to bridge the worlds of earth and heaven. As you dress in the simple white robe provided for today's Greek healing session, you can hear the soft song of lyres being tuned in the distance, their musical notes floating through the morning air like the voices of ancient goddesses calling their daughters home to healing. Today's experience takes place in a recreation of a Greek healing temple dedicated to Hygeia, the goddess of health and healing, and her sisters, the goddesses who presided over various aspects of women's wellness and wisdom. The space is breathtakingly beautiful, with marble columns that catch and reflect the morning light, creating patterns of illumination that seem to dance with their own inner life. The Greek healer who guides today's session embodies the classical ideals of balance and harmony that characterize the best of ancient Greek civilization. She explains that Greek healing was based on the principle of balance, the understanding that health and happiness arose from harmony between opposing forces rather than the dominance of any single element. For women experiencing anxiety, this meant finding balance between activity and rest, solitude and community, thinking and feeling, effort and surrender. The session begins with a practice derived from the ancient Greek mystery schools, where women gathered to explore the deeper meanings of life and to connect with the divine feminine wisdom that the women gathered to explore the deeper meanings of life and to connect with the divine feminine wisdom that the divine feminine wisdom that the explore the divine fine could to explore the deeper meanings of life. Greeks believed resided in every woman's heart. You're invited to join a circle of women seated on cushions arranged around a small altar decorated with fresh flowers, burning incense, and a beautiful statue of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic thinking. The practice starts with a form of prayer that's unlike anything you might expect from modern religious practice. Instead of asking for help or relief, this prayer is an affirmation of your own divine nature and an acknowledgement of the wisdom and strength that already exist within you. The words are simple but profound. I am wisdom. I am strength. I am peace. I am love. I am whole and perfect, exactly as I am. As you repeat these affirmations along with the other women in the circle, you can feel something shift in deep within. Your consciousness. The words aren't just sounds or concepts, but seem to activate actual experiences of wisdom, strength, peace, and love. It's as if the act of speaking these truths aloud in the company of other women creates a field of energy that makes them manifest as lived reality rather than mere hopes or wishes. Following the affirmation practice, you're introduced to Greek philosophical meditation, based on the teachings of philosophers like Epictetus and the Stoic schools that understood anxiety as arising primarily from thoughts and beliefs rather than external circumstances. The meditation involves examining your anxious thoughts with the gentle curiosity of a loving friend, asking questions like, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Does believing this thought bring me peace or suffering? The practice is remarkably liberating. As you examine your anxious thoughts with this kind of gentle inquiry, many of them simply dissolve, revealed to be based on assumptions rather than facts, on fears rather than realities. Those thoughts that do contain valid concerns can be addressed with the practical wisdom that the Greeks valued so highly, while those that are simply products of an anxious mind can be released with compassion and understanding. The Greek session includes a beautiful practice called weaving with wisdom, based on the ancient understanding that creative activity was one of the most powerful ways to calm anxiety and connect with inner peace. You're provided with simple looms and threads dyed in the soft blues and golds that the Greeks associated with divine wisdom, and invited to weave while contemplating questions about your life and circumstances. The repetitive, meditative action of weaving creates a perfect environment for contemplation and insight. As your hands work with the threads, creating patterns that emerge organically from the interaction between intention and intuition, your mind settles into a state of relaxed alertness that allows deeper wisdom to surface. Questions that seemed impossible to answer begin to resolve themselves, and solutions to problems that had been causing anxiety start to emerge with surprising clarity. The healer explains that the Greeks understood creative activity to be a form of prayer and meditation that connected women with the divine feminine wisdom that was considered to be the source of all healing and insight. By engaging in creative practices while holding questions or concerns gently in awareness, women could access guidance and understanding that wasn't available through analytical thinking alone. As the morning progresses, you're introduced to Greek dance practices designed specifically for healing anxiety and restoring emotional balance. The dances are simple and graceful, based on natural movements that honor the body's wisdom and allow energy to flow freely through all the channels that anxiety tends to block. The movements are accompanied by the gentle music of lyres and flutes, creating an atmosphere that's both sacred and joyful. Dancing in this way feels like coming home to your own body after a long exile. The movements seem to unlock tensions you didn't even know you were carrying, while the music penetrates deep into your emotional being, healing wounds and restoring connections that had been severed by stress and worry. As you move with the other women, you experience a profound sense of sisterhood and belonging that reminds you that you are not alone in your struggles or your journey toward healing. The Greek healers understood that anxiety often arose from isolation and disconnection, and that one of the most powerful remedies was the experience of moving together in harmony with other women who shared similar challenges and aspirations. The dance practice creates this experience of unity while also providing a healthy outlet for the physical energy that anxiety often generates but doesn't know how to express constructively. Following the dance, you participate in a Greek symposium, a gathering where women share wisdom and insights about healing and life. Unlike modern support groups that often focus on problems and symptoms, the Greek symposium emphasizes sharing what you've learned, what practices have been helpful, and what insights have emerged from your own healing journey. The format is beautiful in its simplicity. Each woman who feels moved to speak shares one insight or practice that has brought her peace or understanding. There's no pressure to speak, no analysis or advice giving, just the simple sharing of wisdom that naturally arises from lived experience. As you listen to the other women share, you realize that each person's healing journey has produced genuine wisdom that can benefit others, and that your own experiences, even the difficult ones, have given you insights that might help someone else. When you feel inspired to share, you speak about how the breathing practices from the Egyptian session helped. You recognize that anxiety often arises when you're breathing shallowly and thinking too much, and how conscious breathing can instantly restore a sense of connection with your deeper wisdom. Your words seem to resonate with several other women, and you experience the profound satisfaction that comes from turning your struggles into gifts that can help others. The afternoon includes instruction in Greek herbal medicine, specifically the preparation and use of nervine herbs that were traditionally used to calm anxiety and promote restful sleep. You work with dried chamomile, lemon balm, lavender, and passion flower, learning to create simple teas and aromatherapy blends that you can take with you when you leave the sanctuary. The process of working with herbs is deeply meditative and grounding. As you measure and blend the dried plants, you're encouraged to set intentions for healing and to infuse the preparations with the peaceful energy you've been cultivating throughout your time at the sanctuary. The healer explains that the Greeks believed the effectiveness of herbal medicine depended not just on the chemical properties of the plants, but on the intention and consciousness of the person preparing and using them. As the sun begins to set, you participate in a Greek evening ritual that honors the transition from day to night as a sacred time for releasing the concerns of the day and preparing for the healing that happens during sleep. The ritual takes place in the temple's sacred grove, where olive trees provide a canopy of rustling leaves that seem to whisper ancient secrets of peace and renewal. Each woman is given a small clay lamp filled with olive oil and invited to light it from a central flame that has been burning continuously in the temple for generations. As you light your lamp, you're encouraged to set an intention for what you want to release and what you want to invite into your life. The warm light from your lamp mingles with the lights held by the other women, creating a gentle illumination that transforms the grove into a magical space where healing feels not just possible, but inevitable. The day concludes with a period of silent contemplation in the temple's inner sanctuary, where you sit in meditation surrounded by images of healing goddesses and the gentle light of oil lamps. The silence is profound and nourishing, allowing you to integrate all the experiences and insights from the day while preparing your mind and body for another night of deep, healing sleep. As you return to your quarters, you carry with you not just the memory of beautiful practices and inspiring teachings, but a lived experience of your own wisdom, strength, and capacity for healing. The Greek understanding of anxiety as an imbalance that can be corrected through conscious practice has been demonstrated not through theory, but through direct experience, and you go to sleep knowing that you have access to tools and insights that can support your well-being long after you leave this sacred place. The fourth morning brings with it a sense of anticipation as you prepare for your introduction to Roman healing practices, known throughout the ancient world for their sophisticated understanding of how physical comfort and social connection contribute to emotional and mental well-being. The sound of flowing water is more pronounced today, as you'll be spending much of your time in the sanctuary's recreation of a Roman thermae, complete with pools of varying temperatures and social spaces designed to promote both relaxation and community healing. As you make your way to the Roman section of the sanctuary, you notice how the architecture gradually changes from the simple elegance of Greek design to the more elaborate and luxurious style that characterized Roman healing spaces. The Romans understood that environment plays a crucial role in healing, and they created spaces that were not just functional, but genuinely beautiful and inspiring. Places where the very act of being present contributed to a sense of well-being and possibility. Your guide for today's experience is a Roman healer whose approach embodies the practical wisdom that made Roman civilization so effective in addressing human needs. She explains that Roman medicine was distinguished by its systematic approach to healing and its recognition that individual well-being was inseparable from community health. For Romans dealing with anxiety, treatment involved not just individual practices, but integration into supportive social structures that provided ongoing nourishment for both body and soul. The Roman understanding of anxiety was remarkably sophisticated and practical. They recognized it as often arising from an imbalance between individual needs and social demands, and their treatments focused on helping people find ways to meet their responsibilities while also honoring their personal requirements for rest, creativity, and meaningful connection. This approach created healing that was both deeply personal and thoroughly integrated into everyday life. The day begins with the Roman practice of gradual thermal therapy, starting in pools of comfortably warm water that immediately begin to relax muscles that have been holding tension for months or even years. The warm water is infused with mineral salts and healing herbs, creating an environment that seems to penetrate every pore of your skin with nourishing, restorative energy. As you settle into the warm water, you can feel your nervous system beginning to shift from its habitual state of vigilance and worry into something approaching the natural state of peace that was your birthright before anxiety took up residence in your life. The water supports your body so completely that you begin to remember what it feels like to be held without having to hold yourself up, to be cared for without having to do anything to earn or maintain that care. The Roman healer explains that the thermal therapy works on multiple levels simultaneously. The warmth relaxes physical tension. The buoyancy reduces the effects of gravity on joints and muscles. The mineral content of the water nourishes the skin and is absorbed into the body, and the sensory experience of being surrounded by warm, flowing water activates ancient memories of safety and nurturance that exist in every human nervous system. From the warm pool, you move gradually to pools of different temperatures, each designed to provide specific therapeutic benefits. A cooler pool stimulates circulation and creates a gentle contrast that enhances the relaxation effects of the warm water. A pool infused with aromatic herbs provides the additional healing benefits of aromatherapy, while a quiet pool designed for meditation offers space for contemplative practices that integrate the physical relaxation with mental and emotional healing. The progression through different pools creates a kind of liquid meditation that allows you to experience your body and mind in new ways. In the aromatic pool, surrounded by the scents of lavender and rosemary, you practice a Roman breathing technique that coordinates breath with gentle movements through the water. The resistance of the water makes every movement mindful and deliberate, while the aromatherapy enhances the calming effects of the breathing practice. Between pools, you rest in beautifully appointed relaxation areas where comfortable couches are arranged to encourage both solitude and social interaction, depending on each person's needs in the moment. The Romans understood that healing required a balance between turning inward for self-reflection and reaching outward for community support, and they designed their healing spaces to make both kinds of connection easily available. During one of these rest periods, you participate in a Roman practice called conversatio, a structured form of therapeutic conversation that was used to help people process their experiences and gain insight into their challenges. Unlike modern therapy, which often focuses on problems and pathology, conversatio emphasizes sharing wisdom, discussing philosophy, and exploring practical strategies for living well. The conversatio takes place in a small group of women who have been carefully matched based on similar experiences and complementary insights. The conversation is guided by gentle questions that encourage reflection and sharing. What practices have you found most helpful? What insights have emerged from your time here? How do you envision integrating these experiences into your daily life? The discussion that emerges is both deeply personal and surprisingly practical, providing real strategies and encouragement that you know you'll be able to use long after leaving the sanctuary. One woman shares how the Egyptian breathing practices helped her recognize that her anxiety often begins with holding her breath, and how conscious breathing has become a tool she can use anywhere, anytime to restore her sense of peace. Another describes how the Greek philosophical meditation helped her realize that many of her anxious thoughts were based on assumptions rather than facts, and how questioning these assumptions has given her a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced in years. As you listen to these stories, you realize that each woman's healing journey is unique, but that there are common themes and strategies that can benefit everyone. The Roman understanding of healing as a community endeavor begins to make sense as you experience how sharing wisdom and receiving support creates a kind of collective healing that is greater than what any individual could achieve alone. Afternoon brings instruction in Roman massage, techniques that were specifically developed for treating anxiety and promoting restful sleep. You work in pairs, learning to give and receive massage that focuses on specific points and areas where tension accumulates in response to stress and worry. The techniques are simple enough to be practiced at home, but surprisingly effective in their ability to release physical tension and promote deep relaxation. Learning to give massage is as healing as receiving it, as the Romans understood that the act of providing comfort and care to another person activates healing responses in the giver as well as the receiver. As you practice the gentle strokes and pressure point techniques, you experience a profound sense of connection and purpose that reminds you of your own capacity to contribute to healing and well-being. The Roman session includes instruction in the preparation of healing foods and drinks that were traditionally used to support emotional balance and promote restful sleep. You learn to prepare a Roman version of what we might now call adaptogenic foods, simple preparations using ingredients like honey, nuts, herbs, and wine that were understood to nourish the nervous system and support the body's natural ability to cope with stress. The process of preparing these foods is itself a meditative practice, requiring the kind of present moment attention that naturally calms anxiety and promotes mindfulness. As you work with ingredients that have been used for healing for thousands of years, you feel connected to generations of women who have prepared similar remedies for their families and communities, and you begin to understand how the act of creating healing foods can be a form of prayer and service. The Romans also understood the importance of environmental beauty in promoting healing, and the afternoon includes instruction in creating healing spaces using simple Roman principles of design and decoration. You learn about the use of natural light, flowing water, plants, and beautiful objects to create environments that naturally promote peace and well-being. The practical nature of this instruction appeals to something deep within you. Unlike healing modalities that require special equipment or ongoing professional support, environmental design is something you can implement immediately and maintain indefinitely. The principles are simple but powerful. Maximize natural light. Incorporate the sound of water, include plants and natural materials, create spaces for both activity and rest, and arrange things in ways that feel harmonious and beautiful. As evening approaches, you participate in a Roman sunset ritual that takes place on a terrace overlooking gardens and distant hills. The ritual involves a simple ceremony of gratitude and intention setting that honors both individual healing and community well-being. Each woman contributes a small offering to a communal altar, perhaps a flower from the gardens, a stone from the path, or a written prayer for healing. The collective nature of the ritual creates a powerful sense of shared purpose and mutual support. As you watch the sun set over the ancient landscape, surrounded by women who have become companions in healing, you experience a profound sense of belonging and hope that reminds you that healing is not just possible, but natural and inevitable when the right conditions are present. The day concludes with a Roman-style communal dinner served in a beautiful dining hall where low couches are arranged around small tables, encouraging intimate conversation and leisurely enjoyment of simple, nourishing food. The meal itself becomes a healing practice as you experience how eating mindfully in the company of supportive friends can be a form of medicine that nourishes body, mind, and soul simultaneously. As you return to your quarters after this day of Roman healing practices, you carry with you a new understanding of how individual healing and community well-being are intimately connected, and how the practical wisdom of creating beautiful, supportive environments can provide ongoing support for mental and emotional health. The Roman approach to anxiety is something that can be addressed through systematic attention to physical comfort, social connection, and environmental beauty has provided you with tools and insights that feel both ancient and entirely relevant to modern life. The fifth day dawns with the deep, resonant sound of abbey bells, calling the faithful to morning prayers, their bronze voices carrying across the sanctuary and into your dreams, gently calling you back to consciousness with a sense of sacred purpose and timeless continuity. As you rise and prepare for today's exploration of medieval healing practices, you can hear the soft chanting of women's voices engaged in the ancient practice of lauds, their harmonized prayers creating an atmosphere of profound peace and spiritual connection. Today's experience takes place in a recreation of a medieval abbey healing center, where the architecture itself seems designed to lift the soul toward divine contemplation. Stone walls rise in graceful arches that draw the eye upward, while windows of colored glass create pools of jeweled light that shift and dance throughout the day as the sun moves across the sky. The very air seems charged with centuries of prayer and contemplation, creating an environment where healing feels not just possible, but inevitable. Your guide for today is a woman whose presence embodies the deep wisdom and spiritual authority that characterized the great medieval abbesses and mystics, who were among the most skilled healers of their time. She explains that medieval understanding of anxiety was profoundly spiritual, recognizing it as a symptom of disconnection from divine love and purpose, and treating it through practices designed to restore the soul's natural union with the sacred source of all peace and well-being. The medieval approach to healing anxiety was based on the understanding that human beings are fundamentally spiritual creatures temporarily housed in physical bodies, and that true healing required attention to the soul's needs as well as the body's requirements. This created a comprehensive approach that addressed anxiety at its deepest roots, rather than merely managing symptoms. The day begins with the practice of Lectio Divina, sacred reading that was one of the most powerful tools medieval healers used to calm anxious minds and restore spiritual equilibrium. Unlike modern reading, which often involves consuming information quickly and analytically, Lectio Divina is a slow, meditative process that allows sacred wisdom to penetrate the heart and transform understanding at levels deeper than intellectual comprehension. You're provided with a beautifully illuminated manuscript containing passages from medieval mystics who wrote about finding peace in the midst of life's challenges. The text is written in elegant calligraphy and decorated with intricate artwork that seems to convey meaning beyond the words themselves. As you read slowly and contemplatively, you're encouraged to allow certain phrases to speak to your heart, to rest with those words that seem particularly meaningful, and to let their wisdom settle into your consciousness like seeds planted in fertile soil. The practice is profoundly calming and centering. As you read about how medieval women found peace through surrender to divine will, through trust in a loving providence that cared for them more deeply than they could care for themselves, and through practices that opened their hearts to receive the love that was always available to them, you begin to experience these same states of consciousness. The words become more than concepts. They become doorways into actual experiences of peace, trust, and love. Following this sacred reading, you're introduced to medieval contemplative prayer, a practice that was understood to be the most direct route to healing the anxiety that arises from feeling separated from divine love. Unlike petitionary prayer that asks for specific outcomes, contemplative prayer is a practice of simply resting in the presence of divine love, allowing that love to heal whatever needs healing without trying to direct or control the process. The prayer practice takes place in the Abbey's chapel, a space designed specifically to promote contemplative consciousness. Tall stone columns reach toward a vaulted ceiling that seems to open into infinity, while candles provide gentle illumination. That creates an atmosphere of mystery and reverence. The air is lightly scented with frankincense, an aroma that has been associated with prayer and spiritual elevation for thousands of years. As you settle into the contemplative prayer practice, you're guided to simply rest in awareness of being unconditionally loved by a presence that is infinitely wise, compassionate, and powerful. There's nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to prove, just the simple practice of allowing yourself to be held by love that has no beginning and no end. Love that was present before your anxiety began and will remain long after it has been transformed into peace. The experience is unlike anything you've encountered in your healing journey so far. Where other practices have involved doing something, breathing in particular ways, moving your body, engaging with thoughts or emotions, contemplative prayer involves pure being, pure receptivity to love and healing that flows from a source beyond your individual capacity to generate or control. As you rest in this practice, you can feel layers of anxiety and tension dissolving, not through effort or technique, but through simple exposure to love that is powerful enough to transform whatever it touches. The medieval session includes instruction in the practice of spiritual direction, a form of guidance that was specifically developed to help people navigate the challenges and obstacles that arise on the spiritual journey. Unlike modern counseling, which often focuses on psychological dynamics and practical problem solving, spiritual direction addresses the soul's deepest needs and helps people recognize and respond to the movements of divine grace in their lives. You meet one-on-one with an experienced spiritual director who listens with extraordinary presence and attention as you describe your experience of anxiety and your journey toward healing. Her responses are gentle and wise, helping you recognize how even your struggles with anxiety can become opportunities for spiritual growth and deeper connection with divine love. She helps you see that your sensitivity, which sometimes manifests as anxiety, is also a gift that allows you to perceive subtleties and depths that others might miss. The spiritual direction session provides a perspective on anxiety that is both compassionate and empowering. Rather than viewing it as a disorder to be eliminated, the director helps you understand it as a call to deeper spiritual development, an invitation to develop greater trust, surrender, and reliance on divine grace. This reframing transforms your relationship with anxiety from one of resistance and fear to one of curiosity and even gratitude for the opportunities for growth it provides. The afternoon brings instruction in medieval artistic practices that were understood to be forms of prayer and meditation. You learn the art of illumination, creating beautiful decorative letters and borders using traditional techniques and natural pigments. The work requires the kind of focused attention that naturally calms the mind, while the beauty you create becomes a form of offering that connects you with the divine source of all beauty and creativity. Working with gold leaf, natural inks, and delicate brushes, you create a small illuminated prayer that you can take with you as a reminder of the peace and beauty you've discovered during your time at the sanctuary. The process is meditative and deeply satisfying, engaging your creative faculties while providing a focus for contemplative awareness that allows deeper healing to occur without effort or strain. The medieval healers understood that creative activity was one of the most powerful ways to heal anxiety because it engaged the whole person, mind, body, heart, and spirit in activity that was both purposeful and enjoyable. By creating something beautiful while holding intention for healing, you participate in the divine creative activity that is the source of all renewal and transformation. The day includes a beautiful practice called garden contemplation, based on the medieval understanding that God could be encountered directly through attentive observation of the natural world. You spend time in the sanctuary's herb garden, practicing a form of meditation that involves simply resting in awareness of the plants, flowers, and small creatures that make their home in this sacred space. The practice involves no effort or analysis, just gentle attention to the life that surrounds you, the way sunlight plays through leaves, the industrious movement of bees gathering nectar, the gentle rustling of plants in the afternoon breeze. As you rest in this kind of contemplative awareness, you begin to experience the deep peace that the medieval mystics found in recognizing their fundamental unity with all of creation. Garden contemplation reveals anxiety to be a kind of forgetting your place in the larger web of life, forgetting the fundamental goodness of existence, forgetting that you are held and supported by forces much larger and more reliable than your individual concerns. As you remember your connection with the natural world, anxiety begins to feel less like a personal problem and more like a temporary disconnection that can be healed through practices that restore your sense of belonging to the larger community of life. The medieval session includes instruction in the practice of sacred chanting, using simple melodies and repetitive texts that were designed to quiet the mind and open the heart to divine love. The chants are hauntingly beautiful, with harmonies that seem to resonate not just in your ears, but throughout your entire being, creating vibrations that feel healing at the cellular level. As you join your voice with the other women in chanting these ancient prayers, you experience a profound sense of unity and transcendence that reminds you that healing happens not just through individual effort, but through participation in practices that connect you with sources of strength and wisdom larger than your personal resources. The chanting creates an altered state of consciousness where the boundaries between self and other, individual and divine, begin to dissolve, leaving only the experience of love and peace. As evening approaches, you participate in the medieval practice of Compline, night prayers designed to provide spiritual protection and peaceful sleep. The service takes place by candlelight in the chapel, where the darkness outside the stained glass windows creates an atmosphere of intimate communion with the divine presence that watches over all creation during the vulnerable hours of night. The prayers and readings of Compline speak directly to the concerns that often keep anxious minds awake at night: fears about the future, regrets about the past, worries about loved ones, concerns about personal adequacy and worth. The service provides gentle reassurance that these concerns can be entrusted to divine care, that sleep is a form of trust in the goodness of existence, and that rest is not just a physical necessity, but a spiritual practice that aligns human beings with the natural rhythms of creation. The day concludes with a practice called examination of consciousness, A gentle review of the day that focuses not on mistakes or failures, but on recognizing the movements of grace and love that have been present throughout your experiences. As you reflect on the day's activities and insights, you're encouraged to notice moments when you felt particularly peaceful, times when you experienced connection with something larger than your individual concerns, and practices that seemed especially healing or meaningful. This examination reveals that healing has been happening throughout the day in ways both obvious and subtle, and that the divine love you encountered in contemplative prayer has been present in all your experiences, even those that seemed ordinary or routine. As you prepare for sleep, you carry with you not just the memory of beautiful practices and profound insights, but a lived experience of being unconditionally loved and constantly cared for by a presence that never sleeps and never stops working for your healing and well-being. The sixth morning arrives with a quality of light that seems different from previous days, softer, more golden, as if the very atmosphere has been infused with the healing energies you've been absorbing throughout your stay at the sanctuary. As you rise from what has been perhaps the most restful sleep you've experienced in years, you notice that your body feels different, more relaxed, more vital, more at home in itself. Your mind, too, has found a quality of peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances, a deep quiet that has become as natural as breathing. Today's focus is on integration, weaving together all the healing practices and insights you've gathered from Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and medieval traditions into a coherent understanding that you can carry with you into your daily life. The setting for this integration work is a beautiful circular pavilion at the center of the sanctuary, where pathways from all the different healing areas converge, symbolizing the unity that underlies the diversity of healing approaches you've explored. Your guide for this culminating day is the sanctuary's elder healer, a woman whose presence seems to embody the wisdom of all the traditions you've studied. She explains that true healing happens not just through practicing individual techniques, but through understanding the deeper principles that make all healing possible. These principles, she says, are like golden threads that run through every authentic healing tradition, connecting diverse practices into a unified tapestry of wisdom. The integration session begins with a practice called embodied wisdom, where you're invited to spend time in quiet reflection, allowing your body to show you what it has learned during your stay at the sanctuary. As you sit in comfortable meditation, paying gentle attention to physical sensations, you notice that your breathing has become naturally deeper and more rhythmic, that your muscles hold less tension, and that your nervous system has found a quality of calm alertness that feels both peaceful and energized. The elder healer guides you through a gentle body scan that helps you recognize the specific changes that have occurred during your healing journey. Your shoulders, which arrived here carrying months of accumulated stress, now rest easily without conscious effort. Your heart area, which often felt tight and constricted with anxiety, now feels open and spacious. Your belly, which tended to hold worry and fear, now feels soft and relaxed, breathing freely with each natural breath. These changes aren't just temporary effects of relaxation, the healer explains, but actual modifications in your nervous system's habitual patterns. Through consistent exposure to practices that promote peace and safety, your body has remembered its natural state of relaxed alertness, and this new baseline will remain with you as long as you continue to nurture it with appropriate practices. Following the body awareness practice, you engage in wisdom harvesting, a structured reflection process that helps you identify and articulate the most important insights and learnings from your sanctuary experience. Using a beautiful journal with handmade paper, you write responses to questions designed to help you clarify what you've discovered about your own healing process and what practices will be most valuable to continue at home. The writing process is itself a form of meditation, as you find yourself expressing insights that seem to arise from a wisdom deeper than your ordinary thinking mind. You write about how the Egyptian breathing practices taught you that peace is always available in the present moment, how the Greek philosophical inquiry showed you that many anxious thoughts dissolve when examined with gentle curiosity, how the Roman community practices reminded you that healing happens in relationship, and how the medieval contemplative approaches opened you to sources of strength beyond your individual resources. As you write, you realize that your relationship with anxiety has fundamentally changed during your time here. Where once it felt like an enemy to be defeated or a weakness to be hidden, you now understand it as a messenger that carries information about your needs and a guide that can lead you toward practices and insights that support your well-being. This shift in perspective feels revolutionary, transforming anxiety from a source of suffering into an opportunity for self-care and spiritual growth. The integration session includes instruction in creating your own daily rhythm of healing practices that draws from all the traditions you've studied. Working with the elder healer, you design a sustainable routine that includes morning breathing practices from the Egyptian tradition, midday philosophical reflection from the Greek approach, afternoon community connection and physical care from the Roman perspective, and evening contemplative practices from the medieval tradition. The beauty of this integrated approach is that it doesn't require you to choose one tradition over others, but allows you to weave together elements from each tradition in ways that address your specific needs and circumstances. Your morning practice might include Egyptian breath work to center yourself for the day ahead, while your evening routine might incorporate medieval contemplative prayer to release the day's concerns and prepare for restful sleep. The afternoon brings a special session on environmental healing, where you learn to apply the wisdom you've gained about creating healing spaces to your own living and working environments. The elder healer explains that one of the most powerful ways to support ongoing healing is to modify your physical environment in ways that naturally promote peace and well-being. You learn about the importance of natural light in regulating mood and energy, and how to maximize the healing light available in your home through strategic placement of mirrors, choice of paint colors, and arrangement of furniture. You discover how the sound of flowing water, whether from a small fountain or even a recording, can provide constant nervous system support that helps maintain the peaceful states you've cultivated here. The session includes practical instruction in creating meditation spaces that will support your continued practice at home. You learn that healing spaces don't need to be large or elaborate, but they do need to be intentionally created and consistently maintained. Even a small corner of a room can become a powerful sanctuary when it's dedicated to healing practices and kept beautiful through attention to simple details like fresh flowers, comfortable cushions, and meaningful objects that remind you of your commitment to well-being. Environmental healing also includes understanding how to work with the people in your life to create supportive community that nurtures your continued growth. You learn to recognize which relationships naturally support your well-being and which ones drain your energy, and how to set appropriate boundaries that protect your healing while maintaining loving connections with others. The elder healer speaks about the importance of finding or creating community that shares your commitment to conscious living and healing practice. This might involve joining or starting a meditation group, participating in spiritual community, or simply cultivating deeper friendships with people who understand and support your journey toward greater health and happiness. As the afternoon progresses, you participate in a beautiful ritual of gratitude that acknowledges all the sources of healing you've encountered during your sanctuary stay. The ritual takes place in the healing garden, where you place small stones inscribed with words representing what you're grateful for in a special mandala pattern that will remain as a permanent reminder of your healing journey. Writing your gratitudes on the stones and placing them mindfully in the pattern creates a profound sense of completion and blessing. You find yourself grateful not just for the obvious healing experiences, but for the challenges that brought you to the sanctuary in the first place, for the courage you found to seek help, and for the parts of yourself that remained hopeful even during difficult times. The ritual of gratitude seems to seal the healing you've received, transforming it from a temporary experience into a permanent part of your being. As you step back and look at the mandala created by all the women's gratitude stones, you realize that you've participated in creating something beautiful that will inspire and encourage other women who come to the sanctuary seeking their own healing. Evening brings the final formal practice of your sanctuary stay, a ceremony of commitment, where you make promises to yourself about how you will continue your healing journey once you return to ordinary life. The ceremony takes place in the main healing chamber where you first gathered, but now the space feels like a familiar home rather than an unknown territory. The commitment ceremony is simple but profound. Each woman speaks aloud one specific practice she commits to maintaining and one way she will create or maintain supportive community in her daily life. When your turn comes, you speak clearly and confidently about your intention to maintain daily breathing practice, to create a meditation space in your home, and to seek out community with others who share your commitment to conscious, healthy living. Speaking these commitments aloud in the presence of witnesses makes them feel real and achievable rather than merely hopeful wishes. You realize that the support and accountability of community can continue even after you leave the physical sanctuary, and that the connections you've made here are the beginning of a new kind of relationship with yourself and others. As the commitment ceremony concludes, you experience a profound sense of completion, combined with excited anticipation for continuing your healing journey in your own life. The practices you've learned feel integrated into your being rather than just techniques you've studied, and the insights you've gained feel like permanent shifts in consciousness rather than temporary inspirations. The final activity of the day is a gentle walking meditation through all the areas of the sanctuary where you've practiced and learned. As you move slowly through the Egyptian healing rooms, the Greek temple spaces, the Roman baths, and the medieval contemplation areas, you can feel how each tradition has contributed something essential to your healing, and how together they've created a transformation that is greater than the sum of their individual contributions. As you return to your quarters for your final night's sleep at the sanctuary, you carry with you not just beautiful memories and valuable techniques, but a fundamental shift in your understanding of what healing is and how it happens. You've learned that healing is not something that happens to you, but something you participate in through conscious practice and intentional living. You've discovered that anxiety is not an enemy to be defeated, but a teacher that can guide you toward greater self-understanding and more authentic living. Most importantly, you've experienced that the peace you've found here is not dependent on the special circumstances of the sanctuary, but is your natural state that can be accessed anywhere through the practices and understandings you've cultivated. As you prepare for sleep, you do so with complete confidence that you have everything you need to continue growing in health, wisdom, and peace throughout all the days and nights to come. The final morning of your sanctuary stay dawns with an almost magical quality of light, as if the sun itself is offering a blessing for the journey you've completed and the new life you're preparing to begin. As you perform your morning practices one last time in this sacred space, you notice how naturally and effortlessly they flow from you now. How these once unfamiliar techniques have become as natural as breathing, integrated into your very being through consistent practice and gentle attention. The air carries all the familiar scents that have become associated with healing in your mind: the frankincense and myrrh of the Egyptian chambers, the lavender and rosemary of the Roman baths, the roses and jasmine of the Greek gardens, and the subtle incense of the medieval chapel. These aromas have become more than pleasant fragrances. They've become instant reminders of the peace and wisdom you've cultivated, triggers that can transport you back to states of deep tranquility no matter where you might be in the world. Today's final practices are designed not as new learning, but as a gentle weaving together of everything you've experienced into a seamless flow that will carry you naturally into the deepest, most healing sleep you've ever known. The setting is the sanctuary's innermost chamber, a space you haven't visited before, where the most advanced healing practices are offered to those who have prepared themselves through the journey you've just completed. This inner chamber feels like the very heart of healing itself. The walls are made of smooth, warm stone that seems to radiate comfort and safety, while soft cushions and flowing fabrics create an environment that feels like being held in the most loving embrace imaginable. The lighting comes from candles and oil lamps that create a gentle glow rather than bright illumination, encouraging your consciousness to turn inward toward the deep wisdom and peace you've discovered within yourself. The final healer who guides. This ultimate session embodies all the wisdom traditions you've studied, her presence somehow containing the grounded earthiness of Egyptian medicine, the intellectual clarity of Greek philosophy, the practical wisdom of Roman healing, and the spiritual depth of medieval mysticism. When she speaks, her voice seems to come from the very source of healing itself, carrying vibrations that instantly calm your nervous system and open your heart to receive whatever grace is available in this moment. She begins by acknowledging the profound transformation you've undergone during your stay at the sanctuary. This isn't flattery or encouragement, but a simple recognition of the fact that you are literally not the same person who arrived here just days ago. Your nervous system has been recalibrated to a baseline of peace rather than anxiety. Your mind has learned to question stressful thoughts rather than believing them automatically. Your body has remembered its natural state of relaxed vitality. Your spirit has reconnected with sources of strength and wisdom that will support you for the rest of your life. The final practice begins with what she calls gratitude breathing, a simple but profound technique that combines the breath awareness you learned from the Egyptians with the appreciation practices of all the traditions. As you breathe in, you're invited to draw in awareness of everything you're grateful for: your body's natural ability to heal, your mind's capacity for wisdom, your heart's unlimited ability to love, and your spirit's eternal connection to the source of all peace and joy. As you breathe out, you release this gratitude back to the universe, sharing the healing you've received with all beings everywhere who are struggling with anxiety, fear, or disconnection. This creates a circulation of blessing that both completes your own healing and extends it beyond yourself to become a gift to the world. The practice feels like the perfect culmination of your sanctuary experience, transforming your personal healing into a contribution to the healing of all life. The gratitude breathing naturally deepens and slows, each breath becoming more spacious and peaceful than the last. You begin to notice that you're not so much breathing as being breathed, not so much practicing gratitude as being lived by gratitude itself. This subtle shift from doing to being marks the transition into the deepest level of healing practice, where effort dissolves and you simply rest in the natural flow of healing energy that moves through all of existence. Following the breathing practice, you're guided through a progressive relaxation that incorporates elements from all the traditions you've studied. Beginning with your feet, you use Egyptian imagery to imagine roots growing down into the earth, connecting you with the stable, nurturing energy of the planet itself. Moving up through your legs and torso, you apply Greek philosophical inquiry to release any remaining tension or holding, asking each part of your body what it needs to feel completely at peace. As the relaxation progresses through your arms and hands, you incorporate Roman appreciation for the community of healing you've experienced, feeling gratitude for all the hands that have touched you in healing ways during your stay here. When the practice reaches your heart area, you draw on medieval contemplative understanding to rest in the love that surrounds and fills you. Love that was present before your anxiety began and will remain long after every trace of worry has dissolved into peace. As the relaxation reaches your head and mind, you feel a profound letting go that seems to involve not just your individual consciousness, but your connection to the source of all consciousness. Thoughts don't stop, but they become like gentle clouds floating through a vast peaceful sky, arising and passing away without disturbing the fundamental tranquility that is your deepest nature. The healer's voice becomes softer and softer as she guides you into what she calls the great surrender, the practice of releasing not just your anxiety and worry, but your very need to manage and control your experience. This isn't a giving up or defeat, but a recognition that the intelligence that heals your cuts and grows your hair and beats your heart is infinitely more capable than your conscious mind of creating the life you truly want. As you surrender into this deeper intelligence, you feel a profound sense of relief and homecoming. All the effort and struggle you've been carrying for so long can finally be released, not because your problems have been solved, but because you've remembered that you don't have to solve them alone. The same wisdom that guides the stars in their courses and the seasons in their changes is available to guide your life, and all you have to do is stop struggling against it long enough to feel its gentle direction. The final formal practice is a meditation on what the healer calls the eternal now of healing, a recognition that healing is not something that happened during your stay at the sanctuary, but something that is happening continuously in every moment. Past healing supports present healing, and present healing creates the foundation for future healing, in an endless cycle of renewal and growth that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances but flows through whatever circumstances arise. As you rest in this understanding, you realize that anxiety was never really a problem to be solved, but a doorway into deeper self-understanding and more authentic living. Every moment of struggle has contributed to your capacity for compassion and wisdom. Every night of worry has taught you to value peace more deeply. Every experience of fear has strengthened your appreciation for courage and trust. This reframing completes the transformation of your relationship with anxiety from resistance to acceptance, from struggle to curiosity, from isolation to connection. You understand now that you haven't been cured of anxiety so much as you've been educated about it, and that this education has given you tools and insights that will serve you not just in times of stress, but in all aspects of your life. As the meditation draws to a close, you're invited to simply rest in being, without any agenda or goal other than allowing yourself to be exactly as you are in this moment. The healer's voice fades to silence, leaving you in a state of profound peace that needs no maintenance or effort, a peace that simply is, like the space in which all experience arises and passes away. In this space of pure being, healing happens not through doing anything, but through the simple willingness to receive the love and care that is always flowing toward you from the source of all existence. You feel held and supported, not just by the physical comfort of cushions and blankets, but by the very fabric of reality itself, which you now understand to be fundamentally benevolent and supportive of your well-being. The transition into sleep happens so gradually and naturally that you're never quite sure when waking consciousness ends and sleep begins. Dreams and waking blend into a continuous flow of peace and healing, where the wisdom and practices you've learned continue to integrate and deepen even as your conscious mind rests. Throughout the night, your sleep is different from any you've ever experienced. Rather than the unconscious oblivion that anxiety often made necessary, this is a conscious rest, a sleep that somehow remains aware of the peace and love that surround you. You dream of walking through beautiful gardens with women from all the traditions you've studied, sharing wisdom and laughter as you continue your journey of healing and growth. When morning comes, you wake not with the jarring alarm of modern life, but with the gentle transition from sleep to waking that happens when body and mind are perfectly synchronized with natural rhythms. You feel rested not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually renewed, ready to carry the gifts of your sanctuary experience into whatever adventures and challenges await you in your continuing life. As you prepare to leave the sanctuary, you understand that you're not really leaving at all. The peace you've found here travels with you. The practices you've learned are now part of you, And the wisdom you've gained will continue to unfold and deepen throughout all the days and nights to come. The sanctuary has given you its greatest gift, the recognition that you carry within yourself everything you need to live with peace, wisdom, and joy, no matter what circumstances you may encounter. Your anxiety, which once seemed like such a formidable enemy, has been transformed into a trusted friend and teacher, a sensitive messenger that will continue to guide you toward practices and choices that support your well-being. You leave the sanctuary not as someone who has been cured, but as someone who has been educated, empowered, and equipped with everything necessary to continue growing in health, wisdom, and peace for the rest of your life. The ancient wisdom you've received is now yours to share, and your healing becomes a gift to everyone whose life you touch. As you settle into the deepest, most peaceful sleep of your life, you rest in the knowledge that healing is not a destination, but a way of traveling, not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received, not a struggle to be won, but a grace to be accepted with gratitude and wonder. Sleep comes like a gentle benediction, carrying you into dreams where ancient healers continue their work of restoration and renewal, where your soul continues its journey of growth and awakening, and where the eternal process of healing unfolds. In perfect synchrony with the rhythms of earth and sky, breath and heartbeat, love and peace,